Link engaged.
Visit us at TeamSpeak.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Cat's Pajamas here with Ask Joshy. We are broadcasting the TL Open number 25, and we are in Game 2 of the second semifinal set between coL.Drewbie. He is spawning as our blue Terran down here at the bottom right-hand corner of TeamSpeak. His opponent here in the top left-hand corner, that's FnaticMSI.TT1. He is our light blue or teal Protoss player. And we are now playing cross positions on TeamSpeak after kind of an interesting game on Metalopolis, where I thought TT1 had a pretty good advantage for a while, but like you pointed out in the end, didn't have any sort of Psystorm or Templar tech. It let a gigantic clumped Bioball just absolutely wreck him.
Yeah, he either needed more Archons or, just any splash in general. The two Archons there just weren't enough, even though he managed to surround and kill all of Drewbie's ghosts at very near the beginning of that last engagement. I thought that was going to give him the edge, but Drewbie just, all he had to do was stim free, because there wasn't really anything that could kill his Marines and Marauders, even though they were at about 20 to 30 health each toward the end of that, because of course the Zealots are only melee units. They can only attack what they can get to, and the Archons, they're just, weren't enough of them to be a huge threat. So Drewbie just cranking out units toward the end of that, won the game through solid defense, even though he lost his high-tech, expensive ghosts there at the beginning of that engagement. So TT1 switched things up here in Game 2. Altar. We are at cross positions. Usually that promotes a more macro game. I have seen more than one 45-minute plus TVP on this map, like Cruncher versus Drewbie actually is one that sticks in my mind. It was 55 minutes long. I think every base on the map had been taken, like every unit you could conceive of was built. There were pylons all over the place, barracks all over the place. Just this map can go crazy.
Yeah, I want to say recently the IPL3 qualifiers, it was QXC versus Puzzle. I won't swear to that 100%, but I know it was QXC on this map, and everything was mined out. It was a ridiculous game, and I'll just see if I can drag that up, because it's a VOD well worth watching for people who are tuning in. But nonetheless, Drewbie bypassing gas, so it looks like he is going to open 1 Rex FE. A little bit easier map to pull this off on than what we saw Hack do in the first semifinal, as there is a relatively small choke point there leading outside of the natural. You can drop down 1 bunker and control that pretty well while you mass Marines.
That's true. You can go with the 1 bunker, or you can fully wall it off, depending on how scared you are of some early aggression. TT1 obviously going with that Nexus very, very quickly, and getting 2 gateways up in his main after the Nexus was already planted, so he's going for that super macro game that we mentioned. I'm curious if he is going to switch gears and head toward Colossus tech, which is something I expect more out of TT1, but maybe the fact that I expect Colossi means that Drewbie would also expect that, so he's not going to do it, metagaming a little bit.
I understand. This is actually a build that Frank, our friend and compadre over at IPL, manager of Rank Gaming, was saying that Kibikaki was doing. Just open up with the 2-gate, pressure with Zealots, stuff like that, and then move into highly upgraded, lots of armor upgrades for your ground units and stuff like that. Ends up working very well against Terrans, especially if you put on some pressure with those early Zealots. We'll see if he actually expends Chrono Boost on that, because for the time being, it's just been on nothing but economy, and we can see that reflected in the worker count. He is up by 4 at the moment.
Yeah, over at Drewbie's base, he's just spamming barracks for the time being, getting up both refineries at once. Probably going to be seeing 2 tech labs, 1 reactor, very similar build to a series that I cast recently, Trimaster versus Atero. They both went these same builds that we're seeing here on TeamSpeak, and that just seems to be the norm for TVP right now. You get those 2 tech labs in a reactor, you get Concussive Shell and Stim, and then you just kind of eyeball it from there. You can mix in Ghosts, and then eventually get Vikings out of your reactor starport if you see Colossi.
Yeah, certainly. And Drewbie just morphing in that orbital command overhead is natural as well, but he's building up quite well. TT1, on the other hand, he's throwing down 2nd gas, but not going to 3rd and 4th really quick, so we won't see an ultra quick super high-tech transition or anything along those lines. But expect to see him go robo after a couple of gates here, as you were alluding to before, however. But yeah, so we have it. We are setting ourselves up for a pretty long macro game. Your call before of the 45-minute macro game on TeamSpeak could very well be true, as both these players are content to sit back for a little while and just build up their forces.
I'll wait a little bit longer to see if I'm gonna. I really don't want it to go 45 minutes unless there's a lot happening like this. Waiting until 45 minutes not as exciting as just constant battles and stuff like that. But so far, both players just doing what you would expect. TT1 is gonna head on up to 4 gateways, now getting a robotics facility over at his natural. Do fully expect to see that robotics bay come up after an observer gets popped out, but. Yeah, very, very simple, standard stuff. And Drewbie may want to go take out those destructible rocks over near that 3rd base here soon. TT1 should think about it as well, but TT1 really doesn't have any fighting units up right now. He has a Stalker and a Zealot hanging onto the Zelnaga towers, so he could send some probes to start working on those rocks, I guess. But for the time being, now just a couple of sentries get produced as well to protect that sort of small-ish choke. 2 sentries might not be able to handle that, though, if a big wave of Marines and Marauders were to suddenly show up. What sort of scouting has TT1 done so far in this game?
Let's see here. It's not been a lot. He's seen the bunkers, and that's basically all. On the other hand, though, Drewbie actually looking to hit a timing here with +1. He is throwing a turret up at the front to ward against any sort of DT player, things along those lines. But I like how he's switching it up a little bit. Last time we saw the earlier transition over to Medivacs, and he decided to time his attack with that, put on a little bit of aggression. But this, with the +1, he could actually head in and do some real damage right away, especially as we've seen TT1 is investing so heavily into attack at the moment with that Robo Bay coming up. He really doesn't have that great of a standing army, so once +1 finishes, Drewbie is actually going to have amassed quite a big force.
I just took Drewbie's vision on a whim and noticed that he hasn't even left his natural at all. He has no idea where TT1 is even at. He could be close running position, either direction or cross position. He has no idea. This observer is about to get a good look at everything in Drewbie's base if he stays away from that choke. I think TT1's played this map enough times. He should realize that that's the spot where turrets will be. I really still wish that there was some way to tell the turret's actual detection range instead of it's just an attack range, because now Drewbie did get eyes on that observer very, very briefly, and the observer gets away. Drewbie says, BM, bad manner, TT1 with your observer.
Yeah, and TT1 did coax a stim and a scan out of there, so that observer has already paid for itself. It's going to make its way over to the right as well and get a full scout in addition, so Drewbie cannot be happy about that. TT1 already expanding to his 3rd, though. He's going to have to watch out because there's an opening for Drewbie to move in and make a pretty powerful attack, but if this goes on for a little while and this expansion comes out unchecked, TT1 is actually going to have a pretty impressive force because his production and tech is already really in place. And he is letting us know that he doesn't like something at the moment, but I'm actually not sure what he's referring to quite yet.
I think his observer almost got caught again. Four Marines were walking around underneath it, and he darted off to the top right side of the base. But now he's just chilling.
Whoa.
He's just sitting there with his observer. What happened?
Whoa. Oh, we have another base coming out of TT1 over at the 9 o'clock position. So he's going to go right up to 4 base while Drewbie sits on 2, and this is actually going to put TT1 in a pretty good advantage. Again, if he doesn't receive an early timing attack out of Drewbie, as Drewbie is taking down these destructible rocks over on the right-hand side, though, I don't think he has any intention to move out, and I think this significantly favors TT1.
Yeah, TT1, he's got his extended thermal lances up. He says, where you hide it. What are you looking for, TT1? Are you looking for a 3rd base right now? I think he's probably a little confused why Drewbie doesn't have a 3rd orbital command already made. But we have an Armory and a Ghost Academy both coming out of Drewbie, so he's going 2 different tech paths, potentially. Extended thermal lances and +1 ground weapons are about to finish there for TT1. Twilight Council could make a move toward Psystorm as well, so he is definitely switching gears from that first game where he had almost no splash damage to now switching into potentially having all the splash damage. And Drewbie still rolling all of his upgrades. I like to see that. He's going to be at 2-1 here soon. And TT1, instead of getting that early armor upgrade, he did not go for the early armor upgrade. He went only for the early attack upgrade this time. Interesting. So Drewbie is actually going to split his forces here. He's got 2 medevacs headed north, while the bulk of his forces and the giant floating scouting factory there are headed off to the left side. Did Drewbie somehow know about this probe over here? He's finding that pylon that's getting built, and I'm gonna take a look at his vision again and see if he can see anything of those bases on the left side.
Well, he had, he knows the pylon is over there, but that was about it, but, or maybe not even. So I guess he doesn't really have any inclination that the 4th is already up where TT1 has started to return to profit already. Taking a look at the worker count, TT1 doesn't have that many more workers, and
didn't work out.
All right, and looks like it's going to make its way over to the top. Yeah.
Pretty much lost a few Marines, not much exchange there. TT1 was already sitting on his natural with those Colossi, so he's very easily repelled there. 4 Colossi just sitting, bumping into each other. That actually looks really funny. But Drewbie's still just floating around with his medevacs. It looks like TT1 actually lost the medevacs. I don't think he followed them all the way there, and now Drewbie dropping a scan just to see where everything is, and TT1's leaving with his entire fighting force here as the medevacs come in. This is kind of surprising.
Colossi are coming back, but we'll see if Drewbie can get a stop on one. No, actually, he just flies away. I like that. He just coaxed all those probes away, and just by floating those medevacs over his opponent's base, he forced out 300 resources and photon cannons, actually 450 because there's another one coming up, and forced all those probes off of mining for quite a while as he drops himself down into the third, where he will pick off a couple of workers.
He is going to get just a couple of probe kills, and now he's basically forgotten all about his medevacs and might lose everything. Now he does pick up a few units there and heads back over the valley, but TT1 still with the supply lead and a much scarier looking army. Things could get nasty here for Drewbie if he doesn't... Did he get any ghosts out? Like, let's see. I don't see any ghosts in his unit tab there, but he did the Ghost Academy earlier alongside that armory.
No upgrades, though, but he actually started investing in his air right after that Ghost Academy came up. He was going into +1. As you can see right now, it's about ready to complete, and he has quite a few Vikings on the field at the moment. And here we go. So he's going to make his way in. No.
And not do anything.
Okay. Just keeping those units on the high ground. Looks like he's just trying to get TT1 to move out of position because he has his force maneuvering through the middle of the map. TT1 is already starting to bank forces on a Remax, though, as he does have 4 bases up, and it's working out very, very well for him. I'm sure Drewbie was a little bit, hey, there's a 4th base here. How long has that been up?
Yeah, it's got to be a little surprising and disheartening for Drewbie, but being that he's so close to max supply right now, he knows he's not super far behind in standing army, so as long as he's able to get through that army of TT1 and try to do some economic damage, he knows that he'll still be in decent shape. Just the fact that TT1's had those bases up for so long has allowed him to bank a lot of minerals, but you can see that he's still staying on top of his spending and still isn't maxed. Both players rolling lots of upgrades right now. Mobius Reactor, +2 armor, +3 weapons for Drewbie, and +2 ship weapons. That's something you don't see too often. We do have armor level 2 and weapons level 3 coming for TT1, as well as a Dark Shrine, which could come into play here very soon. 6 more gateways being dropped.
Of course, with those Vikings doing 2 attacks, though, it makes every weapons upgrade essentially double the effectiveness, so I do not begrudge Drewbie for investing in that at that time. He still has a pretty decent medevac backbone as well. And he's going to start making his way across the map, but neither player really wants to engage at this moment. Just both players sitting back, maxing, accumulating resources. Drewbie was dropping at a couple of places, but yeah.
Drewbie dropped at 9 o'clock again, but TT1's entire standing army was sitting there, and TT1 actually over at the 3 o'clock-ish position was doing some weapons and stopped a command center from getting built, but now we have a big engagement. Charge lots coming in first, of course. Drewbie does drop a stim. The Vikings are trying to pick up all the Colossi, but it looks like they may only snag 1 or 2 there before going down to that huge Stalker count. Drewbie actually looks like he may need to retreat. These are way too many Colossus lasers ripping through the MMM, and TT1 reinforcing again with lots of gateway units. Drewbie may lose everything here if he doesn't pick up and find some sneaky retreat strategy here.
Yeah, TT1 actually obliterated that army, and at the same time, he actually moved in a couple of zealots on the right-hand side to deny the base that was coming up from Drewbie. So because TT1 already has the 4 base infrastructure down, actually moving to a 5th over at the 12 o'clock position, he is going to be in a beautiful position.
Ouch.
The rest of those units going down, the medevacs picked off as well. Drewbie does pick up on the Dark Shrine, but at this stage in the game, that information alone is just going to make him a little more aware. He's going to have to put down a couple of missile turrets, but it's not exactly going to be game-changing. So TT1 has a 50 supply advantage. He's starting to make his way down to the bottom right. All those Colossi are still standing. It's going to force Drewbie into committing into a lot of Vikings when he doesn't want to do that. He wants something to be able to attack those ground forces head-on.
Right, but TT1 is now barreling near Drewbie's sort of natural ramp between the 3rd and the natural. He's got a lot of forces still standing there. It's a ton of stalkers actually to be able to pick off Vikings before they can pick off the Colossi. He's winning the sort of rock paper scissors counter game, I guess, but he's got everything that he needs to be prepared here for Drewbie's forces. I don't even see any ghosts again in that big clump of Marines and Marauders.
TT1 being exceptionally passive for TT1, it seems like to me, though. But nonetheless, we do have an engagement in the middle of the map. Those Colossi sitting at the back, and the Vikings went down. Well, the last Viking needs to fall. Thank you. There we go. Saving the couple of Colossi that are still remaining. 4 in that composition now. TT1 still with a 20 supply advantage, but Drewbie was able to get a little bit of damage done, flying back with yet some more Vikings. Surprised that TT1 just hasn't engaged this head on and tried to reinforce. He's being very, very apprehensive with his forces, and he may even get one Colossus picked off of the back here without engaging.
I was going to say he's being super passive so that he can just be prepared at all times, but the fact that he just lost that Colossus for no reason kind of goes against that. But attacking the Planetary Fortress now doesn't seem to be the best idea. He's going to back up instead and take on this huge Marauder force, mostly Marauders in this mix. They pick off the Colossus very quickly with a big blink forward, and actually an EMP. I think I finally saw an EMP in this game before the Ghost got taken out, and TT1 still just has way too many Colossi standing. Drewbie did not have a good enough counter there for those Colossi. They're just ripping through everything, and the Stalkers, of course, are a great protective force with Blink. They can take out any Vikings that happen to come close, and Drewbie just, I don't know if he's going to be able to reinforce fast enough. There actually is the GG from Drewbie. While he had 9 units in production, there's no way he was going to be able to get a big enough army to tackle those Colossi and Stalkers in time.
Yes, indeed. And so that wraps up game number 2, evens up the set 1-1. We are going to head into the rubber match of the semifinal in just a second. Guys, this is Ask Joshy and Cat's Pajamas casting for you. It has been a pleasure thus far. Don't forget to check out Joshy over on his YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter channel is at Ask Joshy. I'm at Cat's Pajamas SC2 on all of those. But don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a second.